the Honourable Dr Jonathan Coleman.
Mr Chair, well, looking to what we've just heard, both from the NZ First Member and Phil Goff, you wouldn't believe that there's actually been so much great progress in defence. And we're talking about the appropriations bill here. $535 million over the next 4 years going into Vote Defence Force. And that is $535 million. That is something to really celebrate, quite frankly. And I'm very disappointed with Phil Goff, because no matter how nice I am to him, I cannot get him to take a bipartisan approach and support our serving men and women. It is very, very sad. Look, what I can say to him is he really has been well, I'd like to say misleading there around the PKO, the Peacekeeping Operations paper. He knows that the reasons we've got relatively few people out on deployment at the moment is because we have people who have come back from Afghanistan, from East Timor and from the Solomon Islands. And the situation is very different from when he was Minister, September 8th, 2008, when there was a headline in the Herald relating to Phil Goff's tenure as Minister, which says, "Can't fight, can't sail, can't fly." We've had to turn that around. And what we had in 2010 was the first defence white paper in 13 years. And what that did, that set the policy for defence. So we said, look, it's fiscally pretty constrained times. We've got to be very clear about what we need the Defence Force to do. Primarily, it has to obviously maintain the integrity of New Zealand's borders, be able to operate in our EEZ. It has to be able to deploy into the Southwest Pacific in cases where there may be security emergencies or where there may be humanitarian assistance and disaster relief issues they have to deal with, and it has to be able to make a contribution further afield. So the policy was set, but what we knew was there was a funding gap there. And we knew what capabilities were needed to deliver on that policy, and we followed it up with the release of a capability plan, which we've just refreshed recently, just released 2 weeks ago. But we had this well over $500 million hole, which was going to roll up into the 2020s to a massive deficit of money needed to fund the sort of capital equipment that Defence needs. So we went away, and the officials from the MOD and the New Zealand Defence Force did an excellent job on looking at all the capabilities Defence has, so about 220 of them. They costed them all, they arranged them into 11 capability sets to deliver on the policy. And at the end of that, we had a very clear view of what capabilities were needed for Defence to actually deliver the effects that the government needs it to. And we went to the Cabinet and said, look, this is the policy, this is the strategy, this is the capability we need, and now we need this funding. And as a result of that, in this budget, we've got this over $500 million worth over 4 years, and that is something that Phil Goff really should be celebrating. He's being disingenuous to say that we can't deploy a force on continuous rotation. We can do two at once, just like he could when he was Minister. But the same problems that have been there around, critical trades sustaining these deployments, they've always been there. They were there when Phil Goff was there. But the key point is we are able to sustain these deployments. As for the New Zealand First Member, he wants 8 frigates for the Navy. What he didn't mention was it was actually his leader, Winston Peters, who'd cancelled the 3rd frigate. So I know he would be very eager to go and attack any country ending in Stan, but actually that's not realistic in the current world. So when you look at it, we've got a situation where we had no new money in defence for many, many years. We had to make the best of what we had at the time. We redeployed resources from the back of the office to the front. Phil Goff has mentioned the NH90, $770 million. He forgot, though, that you don't just buy the helicopter, you need to be able to afford to run it, and you need to have people to go in it. Phil Goff ignored that completely. He's now left us to carry the slack. So he talks about morale and attrition. Attrition in the Defence Force is now lower than when he was Minister. It's now 11.6%. Morale is now at 85%. So 85% of personnel in the NZDF rate their morale as good or better. And I can tell you that That's a damn sight higher than the Labor caucus's morale. Yep, it absolutely it is. So 85%. So actually what we've done, we've turned around a lot of the damage that Phil Goff has caused when he was Minister. But the one thing I really do wish, you know, Phil Goff is always welcome to come along to any defence event. I always acknowledge him, but I wish he would just behave the same in the House as he does at those, because actually he's not a bad guy really, but doesn't always behave well.
Members, the question is that Vote Defence Force stand part of the schedules. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question is that Vote State Services stand part of the schedules. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question is that Vote Foreign Affairs and Trade stand part of the schedules. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question is that Vote Order. The question is that Vote Official Development Assistance stand part of the schedules. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question is that Vote Sport and Recreation stand part of the schedules. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question is that Vote Corrections stand part of the schedules.
Mr. Chairman.
I call Jackie Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very pleased to stand up and take a